In previous videos, I've showed you the process of designing this instrument that doesn't really exist yet, and then in the second video I showed you the process of building the body for it. The instrument is a sort of a mini 12-string acoustic guitar, kind of mandolin crossover thing with nylon strings. It's really cool, a lot of fun. And so now in this third part of the installment, I'm going to show you how I made the neck for this instrument. You can see that giant 12-string head on this 19-inch scale instrument. A lot of fun to make, and I'm really looking forward to completing the instrument, but let's see this part now. Now, the first thing about this neck that probably caught your eye already is that I used real ebony for the fingerboard, which is kind of on my no-no list of woods. And of course I didn't buy it. It was donated to me by Louis Van Aken, who got a bunch of factory seconds from a guitar factory that he visited. So these are all pieces of wood that other guitar makers said, no, this isn't good enough, and I said, hold my beer. And of course you just saw me using my square tools to lay it out and find the center and get ready to start doing some CNCing. For those not in the know, all the tape is because I used masking tape and super glue to stick my fingerboards down to the work surface, and I do this for certain things that are small and delicate that I need to cut out, because it's, it seems a little bit wasteful, but it's a lot better than wasting a piece of wood and having it fly up by having some insufficient clamping. It works perfect for, going all the way to the edge of the wood and not having to worry about a spot to have a screw, so I can utilize all of the wood, and it also helps, hold it nice and still and flat with doing these very intricate and detailed carvings, whereas if I had screwed it down, there's that potential of having a little bit of a bubble somewhere. So now this is, as we talked about in parts 1 and 2, I used some glow-in-the-dark black diamond pigments and some Total Boat epoxy, and use that to fill in these markings. So the markings will not be very visible in normal light, but then in darkness they will glow if they're charged up for normal light. And then on this other fingerboard that I'm making for the practice instrument, I added a little bit of color to that, and I just did a different pattern because that's my customer's pattern. I don't want to repeat that. This is a special instrument for her. And also, again, there's still a little bit of handwork to do off the CNC, but you can see that very quickly and easily. I have this pretty much ready to fret fingerboard, and that's what it looks like in the dark. Very cool. Now it's time to fret these fingerboards, and I used my radius gauge that's available at squaretools.com to check the radius of the fret wire before cutting it to size and then, fretting these fingerboards. Buying an arbor press and setting it up for the dedicated purpose of putting frets into fingerboards is on my list to do, but I just keep not doing it, and I just use my drill press, which works fine. And now a quick word from our sponsor, which is, well, it's me, but actually it's you. So right about now, in just about every YouTube video you've ever watched in this genre, there's going to be someone standing here in their workshop telling you about some amazing new product that they bought, that they use, that makes their life better, or some service or whatever. They're going to offer you a 10% code. And I don't know about you, but I don't always believe them. And I think that all of us just sort of see that for what it is. It's a money grab. And hey, if that's how people make their living, that's great. More power to them. Me, I don't make my living by making YouTube videos. The way I'm able to keep this channel alive is thanks to viewers like you who can support me over at patreon.com/TimSway. But more importantly, I just make videos about the things that I make and sell. And those things can be found at newperspectivesmusic.com, where I sell all the guitars that I make, as well as some parts and some plans and some other things. And also at squaretools.com, where I make and sell all the tools that I've designed and developed over the years that make this work easier and more enjoyable for me, and then maybe it will for you too. I also have guineapigtanks.com, but that's a whole other thing. And that's what I do for a living. I don't try to sell you garbage that you don't need in the middle of my YouTube videos. I make these for the sheer love of sharing. Back to the show. And back to the CNC router, where I am cutting out my necks from some locally sourced poplar. And you'll see, of course, I'm making two necks, the 12-string for the client, and I'm reinforcing them with some graphite. But then I'm also making the neck for the practice build, and I didn't want to make the same 12-string design. I felt like since the client dreamt it up, there should only be one of those, and the practice one that should be a little bit different. So I designed the headstock to take 8 tuners, and we'll talk more about why I chose that number later. People always ask me about these clamps that I use, and this is definitely not sponsored, as we just discussed, but I do get these at stumac.com, and I like them. They're a little bit slow, but I like how I can get a bunch of them in on the neck without having to worry about contours or building some jig, and they've been working well for me for years. They do break after a little while, and you have to buy a new one, which I wish they'd improve upon. But I can get a lot of necks out of them, which is worth it for the price that they cost. They're not very expensive by StewMac standards. And then, of course, there's some shaping and sanding the neck in. I always design my necks to be shaped into the fingerboard after they're off the CNC and glued together, not before. And I always want to make sure, though, that I don't screw that up, and check it with a ruler to make sure I didn't like sand a divot into the neck or something. I'm using my center square, which is the tool that I'm most proud of over at squaretools.com, and gets used quite a bit to find the center of my headstock. There's my perfect little ruler, and then I use this template just to figure out where I'm going to drill the holes for my tuners. Now I need 2 different size holes for the tuners. The first hole that actually holds the housing of the tuner, and then the second hole that the end of the tuner, which is a little bit smaller, goes into. So the easiest way to do that is to use a step drill bit to drill my original holes, and then size the holes where I need them using regular drill bits. Now, I'm telling you, you don't need the center square to find the center of things, but man, it sure does speed things up. Even like awkward things like this, where I can use the handle side of the center square to get the long distances, which isn't quite as accurate, but gets me close enough. And then I thought I would do this sort of custom Zelda-inspired headstock design with my logo, because we're using Zelda-inspired graphics, as you would know if you saw the first video in the series. And I did that with the Day-Glow epoxy, but I didn't like it. It didn't really work well. It didn't glow, and I decided to make a cover plate for both headstocks instead. And I used a closet door for the practice neck, and then I went and I used this piece of reclaimed vinyl record for the client's neck, which was all, based on discussion. She loved the idea, and I thought the logo looked really cool. So I ended up gluing that over the logo that I put in originally that just I didn't like. And I didn't like that sunburst that was required to see it. I thought I would use these oversized rubber bands to clamp it down, but they were not working good, and I had to take that all off and act fast before the 4-minute Total Boat epoxy dried to get a bunch of clamps on. And then, of course, I put my little kind of signature now penny into the neck where the neck adjustment cant will push up against it, and then went back to my natural varnish clear finish over my water-based stains, because you can't use a water-based finish over water-based stains. And I think we'll stop here for this video. In the final video, we will assemble and hear these instruments. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was some, entertaining at least, or educational maybe even, if we're lucky for you. And I learned a little bit in the process of making this, and I'm really excited about these inlays and seeing how that all works. So check out the next installment will be the finished product of me putting these instruments together and actually making them play. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I hope you are too. All right, be good.